Special welcome to Eva Schillinger. Good morning, Eva. Thank you for
Good morning.
joining. Thank you for participating in our webinar. I would just give it a couple of more minutes before we will start with the presentations. I can cut mine short, so you actually have enough time to present the actually important part of this webinar. Yeah, thank you for all who already joined this morning to that webinar. And we will start in, let's say, 2 minutes. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. We still have participants joining this webinar, so we will just give them another minute and then I will start with the introduction and my presentation part. Thank you for being patient and start in about 1 minute. All right, I would say we can start the webinar. We'll give a short introduction, so if people are still joining, that's totally fine. I kindly ask Michael to maybe start the recording of this webinar so we can later on place the recording on the NCP4Industry YouTube channel where you could check in case you need to leave early today. All right. Thank you all for joining today for today's webinar with the title NCP4Industry meets IAM I. What does stand behind all those acronyms? We will come in a second. I am very happy to welcome today Eva Schillinger from the IAM I initiative, and she will present later a very nice talk. I already saw her slides. Looking forward to your input, Eva. But I will start with the webinar. My name is Christoph Haas. I am a German national contact point in Cluster 4, specializing in the industrial technologies. I am employed at the project management in Jülich and part of the German NCP DIT and part of the NCP networking project NCP4Industry. Within NCP4Industry, we organize this morning's webinar or this afternoon's webinar, depending on where you are located. On this slide, I'm showing you the very brief agenda for today's webinar. I'll start with a very short welcome and introduction round, which I'm currently doing. Afterwards, I want to introduce you some services offered by our NCP networking project and what NCPs, but also proposers, as most of you are potential proposers in Horizon Europe, could benefit from. Afterwards, comes a very exciting part, the introduction of IAM I and IAM4EU. That will be presented by Eva Schillinger. And afterwards, we reserved quite a chunk of time for a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, feel later on free to post them in the chat, or you are also invited to join by camera and microphone. It's totally up to you. All right, let's start with NCP4Industry. NCP4Industry is a national contact point networking project which runs for 39 months, and our project will end already at the end of August. We are composed of 17 partners from different European countries. Here on the map, you actually see where we're all originating from. So we are covering quite some parts of Europe, but of course not every part of Europe. We will have a continuation project named NCP4Industry Plus, which will start right on the 1st of September this year and will last another 3 years. You can always reach us on the ncp4industry.eu webpage. We have an own dedicated LinkedIn page where we share news and updates in Horizon Europe industrial technologies area. And if you want to reach out, you can of course also use our email address, which is placed here on the slide. Before we get that question, yes, you will receive all the presentations, which will be shown today. So if you're registered over the registration form, we have your email addresses, and we will send out the presentations after this webinar today. All right, what do we actually do in NCP4Industry? What are our objectives? We have a lot of objectives which sound very fancy, but I want to break them down what that actually means for you. So I added to our, let's say, proposal writing, phrasing, a couple of things what we actually do offer for NCPs. So for fellow NCPs, if you're not part of the networking project, we offer NCP dedicated trainings and webinars where experienced NCPs support newcomer NCPs by building up their knowledge capacities. For experienced NCPs, we also organize get-togethers where we can share best practices across border and can improve our daily NCP work. Another highlight, in my opinion, is the NCP twinning and staff exchange activities which we offer. That means that on an NCP level, we provide the budget for you to travel to other fellow national contact points in other countries. For 1 or 2 days, we cover the travel expenses, and you can build up quite the knowledge and also strengthen your network with your fellow colleagues. For proposers, we also offer a couple of services. We offer, for example, like today's webinar, where we inform about the newly formed EU partnerships. Today we will talk about the materials-focused partnership IAM4EU. A couple of weeks ago, we had a dedicated webinar on the textiles partnership, which is also new now in Horizon Europe Cluster 4. And you find the recording on YouTube as well. Besides that, we also organize online and on-site brokerage events. We just started an online brokerage event in the as part of the EU Commission info days on Cluster 4, and where we provide proposers the chance to virtually meet and broaden their networks, but also at this year's INTEC, which will be organized next week in Krakow. We also organize an online brokerage event where you have the possibility to connect with other interested parties for Horizon Europe Cluster 4. We offer a multitude of support activities, mainly in the 3 upcoming calls in Cluster 4 Industry. And you see that we are really in Cluster 4 by what I highlighted here in blue. You find the acronym CL4, which stands for Cluster 4, and we are covering these 4 calls, which have a multitude of topics included in those calls, with a deadline end of September or beginning of October. To give you a very, very, very brief overview of Horizon Europe, you might all know the current structure of Horizon Europe, and Cluster 4 is situated in the second pillar, Global Challenges and European Industrial Competitiveness. Here I highlighted it again in blue. This is Cluster 4, not just focusing on industry, but also focusing on digital and space. Come to that in a second. Oh, sorry, there was one too many. Just a brief overview, where can you actually find the industrial technologies in the current work program in 2025 in Cluster 4. Mainly you find industrial technologies in Destination 1 and in Destination 2, but you can also find a few topics in Destination 6, human-centric and ethical development of digital industrial technologies. But you should never see the structure of the work program, so the destinations, as like a silo, or even the clusters as a silo, because there are a lot of overarching components between the different clusters, but also between the different destinations. And we as NCPs can always support you in that aspect. If we do not find anything that fits your project idea in our cluster, we can help you in finding something in a different cluster and refer you to the respective colleagues in those clusters. Since today we're focusing on the materials partnership, I took the liberty of highlighting in the upcoming work program the 4 topics which actually have the innovative advanced materials for Europe partnership as part of the title. You find them listed here. I also linked the dedicated funding and tenders portal pages to the respective calls. And as you see, there is actually quite some funding involved in the respective topics, but also in the respective projects that are envisioned by the European Commission. And also the addressed thematic areas are rather broad and of high interest to hopefully you as well. I do not want to go too crazy much into detail of the topics, but I want to give you a bit more of the timeline. As I already mentioned, the the deadline in the industrial technology topics will be September 23rd for the 1-stage and the 2-stage calls. The 2-stage calls have an additional 2nd deadline, which will be in April in 2026. What I really do want to highlight is that NCP4Industry, as well as Idealist, I will come to Idealist, what it is in a second, will offer extensive proposal check events. What does that mean? We as NCP networking projects organize experienced evaluators. We organize a platform where you can apply with your very advanced proposal prior to the deadline, and you can apply to be part of this proposal check event. If you will be accepted, you have the unique experience of having 1 or even 2 experienced evaluators check your proposal prior to submission. Everything is confidential, of course. Nothing goes outside of this virtual meeting, and you get a very detailed feedback by those evaluators on which parts you should focus in the proposal, which should be enhanced, which should be better structured maybe, or which should be rephrased in order to give you the advantage of hopefully then receive funding in Horizon Europe. So please stay tuned on that. follow us on LinkedIn, check our webpage. We will in due time inform you how to apply there and what are the requirements to participate. And I think it's a very great opportunity to get extensive feedback. You can, of course, always reach out to your national NCPs, and if they do not have the capacity, or if they are new, maybe in Horizon Europe, they can always reach out to the NCP4Industry networking project, and we can always find a way of supporting US proposers. Or another great highlight, if you're next week even in Krakow at the INTEC 2025, you can, of course, also talk to us. We have a booth, and we can give you extensive feedback also there and discuss with you in length how to optimize or get the best out of your proposal and your project idea. As you already saw a couple of logos on the pages, and as I already teased, we are not alone in Cluster 4. So there's digital and space besides the industrial technologies. And for the other two thematic areas, we have another two networking projects. For digital, it's Idealist, and for space, Cosmos for EU. We work closely with the two NCP networking projects together. We have great collaborations. And if we from the industry part cannot help you because it's out of our expertise, we always refer you to the other networking projects, or of course to your national contact points in your respective country. We also do work closely across clusters, so with the other clusters in Horizon Europe, but also cross pillar, because as I already said, Horizon Europe shouldn't be seen as a silo thinking funding program, but rather connected and interactive funding program. If you want to know about other NCP networking projects, maybe in other fields, you are more than welcome to click on the Horizon Europe NCP portal page, where you find also the other NCP projects, which of course I couldn't add here on this slide. With that, I'm already at my end. You find here my contact information. You can always reach out to me by email. You can follow me or send me a request via LinkedIn. We can always connect. And with that, I thank you all for your attention. Thank you for joining today's webinar. And with that, I would hand over the floor to Eva. And I will stop this presentation. Just a second.
Yes. So thank you very much, Christoph, for this nice introduction and also for this very, very nice overview of how the contact point actually is supporting all of the stakeholders here and all of the potential applicants to the calls and topics under Horizon Europe. I think this is extremely useful. Now let's have a look at all of this from, of course, a similar, but then again a bit different angle, because I'm here today to present to you the new partnership for advanced materials under Horizon Europe, which is called IAM for EU, Innovative Advanced Materials for the European Union. Next slide, please. So yes. Probably quite a number of you are familiar with partnerships under Horizon Europe. So as you can see here in the pillar 2 of Horizon Europe, which is the pillar dedicated to industrial and academic collaboration, you have the different clusters, as was also just discussed by Christoph, ranging from health to food, bioeconomy, agriculture, and environment. And under the cluster 4, which is digital industry and space, you have a number of different kinds of partnerships. So you do have, on the one hand side, the institutionalized partnerships, such as the CHIPS joint undertaking, and then you have co-funded, a new actually co-funded partnership, which is being implemented right now on raw materials. And you have a number of co-program partnerships in Cluster 4, actually the highest number. And amongst these, also the new partnership on advanced materials. Many of you may be familiar with, for example, ADRA, the AI Data and Robotics Partnership, or Processes for Planet, Made in Europe, which is the manufacturing partnership, Clean Steel, another new one, Textiles of the Future, etc. So this is the environment where we find ourselves. And as you know, the partnerships work in a way where there is no additional budget out of Horizon Europe. However, a certain amount of Horizon Europe budget is earmarked for calls that specifically are being developed under that partnership. So you can see here that IAM for EU for the last 3 years of Horizon Europe has a budget from Commission side of 250 million euro budget. You also do know that this budget normally is expected to be met by in-kind contributions, at least one-to-one, if not by much larger in-kind contributions, such as usage of assets, such as infrastructure, such as whatever else, additional research activities on the topic by the private side. And the private side in this case is both industry, but also academic research at research and technology organizations and universities. So I can tell you that the last batch of new partnerships, which comprises the textiles, the innovative advanced materials, the virtual worlds, and for cluster 4, the photovoltaics, has been signed in terms of memorandum of understanding. So the agreement has been signed between the European Commission and the respective partnerships. So these are fully officialized. Next slide, please. Now you may ask, okay, but why do we need this partnership, or what is different looking at this partnership with respect to other partnerships that are looking more at advanced materials, such as, for example, in Cluster 5, the Advanced Materials Partnership, or also in Cluster 4, the Process for Planet, for example, that is the partnership that looks at processes, especially for energy-intensive industries. And you could argue that okay, of course, advanced materials show up in many of these different contexts as well, which is true. However, the journey started with a materials manifesto that was published in February 2022, and the signatories from research, from industry stated that the European research landscape, research and development landscape in advanced materials is a very solid one. It's a very knowledgeable one. However, the follow through to bring really innovations to the market is suffering because the landscape is there, but it is fragmented. So the guiding principles here are really, and you also all know that the European Commission actually, or you may know that the European Commission actually has published last year in February an entire communication and strategy on advanced materials for industrial leadership. So the guiding principles are really here to accelerate, to support the overall EU advanced materials ecosystem, and to actually enhance the competitiveness of industry in strategically relevant markets, but also to make the overall RD&I value chain, if you so wish, coherent. That means make it stringent, accelerate research results out of academic RTO research to reach the market in a shorter time span than what is seen today. All of this should support, of course, major EU policies such as the European Green Deal or the Clean Industrial Deal plans that try to ensure more resilient, which is also a very important topic right now, competitive and sustainable value chains in Europe. So what we try to do actually, as we somehow want to take, I mean, an absolute holistic approach probably is an ideal we're striving for, but we want to take a more holistic approach to the field of advanced materials, is to look at application market-driven needs and commonalities between advanced materials that are needed in different industrial sectors and different application markets, with a strong emphasis on a cross-value chain fertilization, collaboration, and the replicability of solutions. One of these motives, for example, is that we really are looking at the full innovation cycle for advanced materials. But another motive also is, for example, the preparation for advanced materials value chains that are circular, the observation of or the working on resilient advanced materials value chains, and other enabling technologies such as digitalization, data, and AI. What is really important for the Advanced Materials Initiative is, and this is maybe a bit different than other more specialized public-private partnerships that fall under advanced materials, that we're taking a strictly technology-neutral approach. That means we are challenge-driven, we are needs-driven by individual application markets. However, whichever technology actually in the end will prove useful to meet those challenges, that is something that we're absolutely technology neutral about within the partnership. Next slide, please. So you see here, you have to have a certain reasoning and a certain setup of the strategic research and innovation agenda of such a partnership. So of course, the two main points are the Horizon Europe strategic plan for 25 to 27 and all of the EC policies and initiatives.
Sorry, Eva, we currently cannot hear you. You somehow got cut out after EU policy on advanced materials for industrial leadership as the introduction of the slide.
Can you hear me again?
Yes, now it works again. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us? Now we lost you again.
No, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Great. I'm sorry about this. My headset is a bit interesting these days. Good. So I will try to speak loud enough because that's the issue with the other microphone here. So as you can see, the more specific objectives behind the partnership are, on the one hand side, the advanced materials themselves and their associated technologies. So this is where we expect impacts on the resilient and circular value chains, basically starting with the design for resilience and circularity, and then coming full circle. We also have as a specific objective to look at the cross-enabling tools and methodologies. I already mentioned here, this is going to be digitalization, but it's also going to be approaches such as the safe and sustainable by design approach that was presented by the European Commission in the form of a framework in late 2022. And of course, a more holistic view at the overall field would not be complete without looking at the enablers and synergies. So here, for example, we're looking at testing infrastructures, but we're also looking at standards and norms, etc., etc., etc. You can see it may sound rather ambitious, and for sure, we will never be able to cover 1000% of all of this. However, and we will also see that in one of the later slides, our very nicely growing membership, I have to say, tells us that obviously we hit something of a blank spot in the overall European funding landscape with this partnership, and there is quite a bit of interest by our members to actually support these goals. If we can go to the next slide, please. Yes. So this is the strategic research and innovation agenda, and of course it is structured along those specific goals. And you see here on the right-hand side that every single one of the specific goals has a dedicated chapter under which research and innovation priorities were identified. If you could click once more. So For the advanced materials themselves and the associated technologies, we have identified, together with our stakeholders in the preparation work of setting up the partnership, 10 different priorities. Here, for example, you can see innovative advanced materials for lightweight structures, durable and sustainable. You can also see a focus on critical raw material free or lean, for example, catalysts, but also magnetic phases. And you can also see topics such as another example, innovative advanced materials based on recyclable polymers and polymer composites. And the last topic, which is definitely not the least one, because we know it's an overarching motive also for several applications of advanced materials, is the identification of PFAS alternative or PFAS or materials that are based on PFAS alternatives. So these are a couple of examples as to what are research topics that currently actually have their place in our research and innovation agenda. If you go to the next slide, please. We do have, under the topic of cross-enabling tools and methodologies, the priorities that I just mentioned before. So we're looking at digital materials data spaces. We're looking at modeling, so predicting performance and life cycle of materials. We're looking at testing methods, supporting the implementation, especially of safe and sustainable by design, and data management and curation for SSBD. And then if you look at the ecosystem enablers and synergies, which would be the last click I would ask you for, Christoph, this is the broader ecosystem, starting with very broadly, of course, we will need new business models when we talk about circularity and digital enhancement. We will need education and skills here, given by the synergies with the Advanced Materials Academy. We will need to have an eye on open innovation testbed structures, for example, and we have the topic of standards and norms here. So if we could move to the next slide, please. I'm not going to spend many words on this because you saw that also Christoph had these calls, of course, already in his slides. So these four calls are the ones that are definitely earmarked under IAM4EU. First two topics, so the monitoring, smart maintenance and repair strategies for construction, and the fast curing sealants and coatings for manufacturing and final assembly, are, as an additional point of information, lump sum projects. I know that these lump sum projects are more and more popular, which I also completely understand, because there is a certain reporting burden, if you so wish, that normally is associated with Horizon Europe projects. And you know that one of the approaches of the executive agencies and the European Commission is to make more and more projects lump sum projects, where you are no longer asked to meticulously document every single hour you spent on the project, but if the work package deliverables have been achieved within the agreed upon timeline, then the previously assigned part of the pot, part of the money, will be transferred to the respective party without further financial reporting, which of course is a very nice thing. If we move to the next slide, please. Then I would like to tell you a bit about the association behind a partnership, because these partnerships are public-private partnerships. Public side, of course, is the European Union, the European Commission, and the private side is represented by an association that consists of members out of research, so universities, research technology organizations, and industry. We are a rather young association, so our first General Assembly, in which the governing bodies were elected, took place on the 31st of January. By the way, that's a mistake, not 24, but 25. So this year. And we had to begin with already 262 members signed up for our association. You can see a bit of analysis here. So overall, roughly 36% of industry membership, and roughly 65, something like that, out of the research area. You can see here we have a number of universities, but also a number of research and technology organizations that are ranging from small to large research and technology organizations. I'm very happy to tell you that I can already give you an update because we held our second General Assembly 2 weeks ago in Pisa. And we already saw a growth of a bit more than 10% because we already are able now to proudly say that we have almost 300 members that we gained over the first 3.5 months. You could go to the next slide, please. I wanted to give you a bit of an insight. We are right now constructing our webpage because you can imagine setting up a new association. There's all kinds of very practical decisions that you also need to take, such as, for example, the logo, both for the association but also for the partnership. We're very happy that we have that now. And with that now comes also the setup or the redo of our website on which all of our members in the form of a list also will be published. However, I would like to give you a glimpse into our governing bodies and how basically the membership is represented in the governing bodies, because I believe this is really a testament to that we actually achieved already to attract industrial players and research and technology players from all over the fields, from all over the different areas of expertise. So as you can see, for example, from an industry standpoint, we have companies such as Airbus with us that are system integrators at the end of the industrial value chain that are not manufacturing advanced materials themselves, but that have a very high interest in actually being involved here and seeing and understanding that the needs of their markets are going to be represented well. The same goes, we have a chemical industry with us that are at the very beginning of all of the advanced materials value chains, such as Evonik, or in the association delegation, we have Science and we have BASF. We have aerospace, again, Airbus and also Leonardo, but we also have Safran with us. We have OCAS with us, which is the research arm of ArcelorMittal. We have ABB with us. We have automotive tier suppliers such as Schaeffler Technologies with us. We also have companies out of the graphene space with us, so two-dimensional materials such as Apelea and B-dimensional. On the research side, we do have, as you can see, really a number of research and technology organizations represented, such as, especially also of interest always for the German stakeholders here, the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft, the Forschungszentrum Jülich, but also, of course, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Finnish research and technology organizations and universities that come from Greece, that come from Sweden, and that come from Italy. So it's a rather diverse picture, and I'm quite happy about this, because luckily this is also something that we see in the overall members that have even joined us after the first General Assembly. So we have members such as, for example, Ericsson or Toyota that have joined us, and we're very, very happy about that. The next slide, please. Yes, so this is something that might be of interest if you consider that this would be interesting for you to actively get involved in this partnership. We are offering to our members to join one of these 7 working groups or 4 task forces. And going back to the logic that I presented to you as to the strategic research and innovation agenda, I think it goes without saying why we have set up these 7 working groups. There's going to be one on digitalization and AI. There's going to be one on resilient and circular value chains. We have one each on the first 4 focus markets that the European Commission defined, which is construction, electronics, energy, and transport/mobility. We have decided, because we do know that there's many discussions going on around advanced materials and their applications in the application market of health. We have decided to add this working group to our portfolio. And on top of that, we have defined 4 task forces. The task forces will deal more with overarching topics and will work more on a project basis, on an assigned basis, and we have task forces on questions around education, workforce, standards and norms, infrastructures, and task force 4, which is, in my eyes, of course, a very important one as well, considering the fact that we are looking at the end of Horizon Europe by end of 2027 and at a new framework program or new funding system, which is the Task Force for Policies, Funding and Strategy Beyond Horizon Europe. We opened the call to join the working groups and task forces approximately 6 weeks ago, and I can tell you that the elections for the lead position are actually ongoing this week. You can still become a member of these working groups and task forces. However, at this point in time, you currently cannot be a candidate anymore for the lead positions. So we always have a lead from industry, a co-lead from research, and in the case of the working groups, also a technical advisor position. And these positions, these lead positions out of the working groups and task forces then come together and form the alignment group. So we do not work in silos, but we really get these groups tied together. The leads, the calls for leads are no longer open because here we have the elections ongoing. However, any new member of IAM I is more than welcome to join one or several of these working groups and to contribute in these working groups. Next slide, please. And with that, actually, I think, I hope I have laid a good basis in terms of information for further discussion now here with you. So you can see here, becoming a member is really not hard. We have a link on our website for it. And you basically just fill in a form and we will get back to you immediately. When you have become a member, also, of course, it is open to you to actually get actively involved in the working groups and task forces. And there is, of course, also our presence on social media and on the web. And if you could go to the very last slide, please, Christoph, then there's also a bit of documentation with the appropriate links, as you will be getting these slides that actually covers various aspects of what might be of interest to you if you want to learn more about our association or even potentially in the end join it. So I see that there was already questions during the during my presentation. So maybe, I don't know, Christoph, would you like to moderate this?
Yes, gladly. First of all, thank you very much for that very nice and detailed overview over IAM I and IAM4EU. I think we all learned something, even if we're already maybe sometimes experienced in Horizon Europe and in the partnership world. Let me just check how to operate this here on the site. Okay. Yes. All right. I'll start with the first question. Yes, we will send all the presentations to everyone who registered. If you did not register and got the link somewhere else, just send me an email. You will still receive the presentations. Okay, yeah. There's a question. Is it mandatory to be a member of IAM I in order to participate in these calls? So I think that was for the calls.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is not the case for the co-program partnerships here. Of course, this is, for example, one of the differences with the joint undertakings, where, of course, you have to be a member in the association behind, and you have to contribute your financial obolus, so to speak, upfront. No, it is not the case. And something that I did not comment on here, but if you're wondering how this actually works to develop the calls jointly between the European Commission and the partnership, we do have a so-called partnership board. This is what this governing body of the association delegation, together with the executive board, actually is responsible for. They are representing the association and the private side in these official meetings with the European Commission. On top of that, of course, via the working groups that we're setting up right now, we actually are giving input to the European Commission. Right now, of course, we do know that there is a certain development of the work program 26-27 that is already ongoing. The timelines here were not ideally aligned, I should say, but we met this challenge by actually starting a survey throughout our entire membership with the first proposals that came from the European Commission side, and we continue to give input, and especially also after the working groups have been set up into the development of the work program 26-27. Of course, the European Commission in the end is not 100% bound to take up this input. Nevertheless, it's a valuable source for the European Commission. And in the end, the calls that are resulting and that are being published like now for the work program 25 and next year for 26-27 are open to all stakeholders. So you do not have to be a member of IMI in order to participate in these calls. If you, however, want to even start at an earlier age and you want to a certain degree have an opportunity to bring in your needs at an earlier stage already, this is the ideal setup then for you to become engaged in IMI and in the working group / task forces.
Thank you, Eva, for answering that question. Are there more questions from the audience? How can we submit our interest to join working groups?
Yes. So if you're a member already, then you will actually have the opportunity to join these working groups, because as soon as you have been admitted as a new member, which is a decision of the executive board, we will be sending you this information, and there is a form that we have set up, like a questionnaire, that you then will be asked to fill in, and accordingly you will have the opportunity to join the working groups. To make it clear, joining the working groups and task forces is something that we keep exclusively for our members, because our members should be represented in IMI and in its working groups and task forces.
Thank you. That was very clear. So I can just urge you to become a member of IMI to then really get into the upcoming working groups. Thank you for that answer. Then there's actually a question, I think, for me. Is NCP4Industry providing financial support for visits to potential collaborations for the purpose of establishing a consortium? If so, how do we apply? Unfortunately, we do not have such financial support schemes in our networking project. However, there are in specific countries, there are a couple of financial support schemes that can support you. So I suggest you reach out to your national contact point in your country to discuss with him or with her possibilities of maybe receiving financial support. That is one way. Another way for the widening countries could be that you receive financial support by a funding scheme, which is part of the widening NCP networking project, Widera. They have also certain travel grants, and I think they even have a list which events, for example, are covered by these travel grants. So you could check also that networking project. Are there more questions from the audience? You are also welcome to open up your microphone and your camera if you'd like. Do not need to use the chat, but you can of course use the chat. Hi, is it possible to apply for software projects? I'm not sure for whom is that referred. If is that for you or for me? I think.
I mean, we can try to answer it to the best of our ability. You saw the general direction that the calls for the work program 25 were in. So we did not have any dedicated call for digital in the work program 25. It was more focused on electronics and the construction sector and surfaces, so coatings and sealants. However, you also saw on the strategic research and innovation agenda that digital data and AI are areas that are seen as priority areas. So in principle, of course, we could also see that there might be projects in future where software actually would be an answer or part of the answer of the consortium. But it is not strictly dedicated to digital and software alone. I'm not sure because it's not much of an answer, because it's kind of a very nice German Ein. But as always with Horizon Europe and the topics and the calls, we really have to dig into the calls and to see which components need to be added and fulfilled to basically to have a successful application for the grant. I don't know, Christoph, whether there's anything else you might want to add.
Yeah, I think you pretty much covered it pretty well. I mean, in the materials topics, I also do not really see software projects to be included. I would rather check than the other destinations in cluster 4, either being it on data, if the software should focus more on data, so destination 3, or destination 4 when it maybe moves a bit more in the AI direction. So to make it simple, I wouldn't say that there are software projects that fit into that aspect, but it has to be, of course, seen case by case if it really is applicable. In the meantime, we actually got the link for the NCP Widera Net project for the travel grants. Thank you, Emil, for posting it in the chat. So if someone is interested in that, please follow the link. Then we have another question. Could eligible associated country representatives be invited into the relevant IAM4EU boards as observers? I understand the possibility of having observers is indicated in the IAM4EU Memorandum of Understanding, as well as the IAM I AOB. I'd be grateful if some light could be shed on this, please. Thanks.
So we do have it in the IAM I statutes that observer bodies can be granted access to the governing bodies of IAM I. First of all, we have actually the 4 entities that were instrumental in setting up the association and the partnership. They have more or less per default the right to actually join as observers. In principle, we do have the possibility for other representatives to also join as observers. However, we also laid out in our bylaws that there needs to be, first of all, an application to do so. There needs to be designated representatives. There needs to be a commitment to put in the time, and there needs to be a reasoning, of course, also why exactly this representative should be joining as an observer status the executive board, because it is not, of course, it is not the idea of having observers to blow up the meetings to a very, very large size of participants. So the question also would be, because you're saying here associated country representatives, you would need to be a representative of, you cannot just, we haven't had that discussion yet, but you cannot just be a representative of a member state, but it would need to be, of course, representing a body that is of relevance, so a legal entity that deals with advanced materials, etc., etc., etc. I invite you to contact us again, or to contact me again, and we could discuss this question in more detail.
Thank you for that answer. Then we got another question and already the link for it. Will there be a brokerage/matchmaking event, or is there already one? Yes, there is currently already an ongoing online matchmaking event, which has been started one day after the info days on 14th of May. So a couple of weeks ago. And again, Emil, thank you for posting the link in the chat. Then I do not need to find it. Great. Yeah, we already have the link online. You are still able to participate. You can register, check out the other registered participants, and set up meetings.
Yes, and maybe I add, from our side, currently we do not have planned a brokerage for 25, because we are really very much challenged by the timelines and setting up the association still. And we are a very, very small team right now. We're also looking at growing our team, but we are for sure, we will be offering also brokerage events for the upcoming work programs.
That is always good to know, because that is also what we are interested in then sharing, of course, the information with everyone who is interested in that. And of course, we can maybe even collaborate in that endeavor to support you in whatever capacity you might need us as NCPs.
Yes.
All right. Are there more questions? Yes, we have a raised hand. Pedro, please. The floor is yours.
Hello, thank you. Yeah, I raised the hand because I cannot write in the chat. I don't know why, so it's easier to speak. First of all, thank you, Eva, for this great presentation. I was just wondering if you intend to publish the members list. So it's always nice to know who are. Sorry, I am an NCP in Portugal, so it's always nice to know the stakeholders. So I'm just wondering if this is something that you are wondering of
Yes,
doing it.
I think I briefly sort of referred to it. It is a bit right now, the bottleneck is a bit right now the setup of the new website, because our current website, of course, is functional. It's providing all of the information, but since we're planning to relaunch with the new corporate identity, the correct colors, the nice logos, this is something that we're preparing for this website. So I'm asking you for a tiny bit of more patience, but within the next weeks, it should be there.
Okay, great, thank you.
And another thing that I forgot to say, actually, IAM4EU/IMI will also be rather present to our great pleasure at the INTEC, the upcoming INTEC, since Christoph also referred to it very much. So we will definitely see each other in person, Christoph then there. So on the Tuesday, we actually have a very nice opportunity to talk to present at a side event that the Polish colleagues are organizing. But we are also basically in charge of the session M4, which is Advanced Materials at the Heart of Industrial Competitiveness. This is a session that is purely organized by IAM4EU/IMI, where we really discuss, okay, where are we going with the advanced materials? And then in the afternoon, we will, well, actually IMI, in the form of me, will be participating in the plenary panel, which is around the competitiveness compass and basically the role that also advanced materials then will play in that context. So if you're really interested in the advanced materials world and in IAM4EU/IMI, there's really a number of opportunities together with the fact that we also have a booth. So please come talk to us if you happen to be there, and come to one or several of the sessions. That would be really nice to see you.
Great. Thank you, Eva. Thank you for the question, Pedro. All right. Are there more questions? Might have a question. Eva, you already mentioned that there might be already something circulating for 26-27. I know everything is ongoing discussion and nothing is for certain, and no one should already work on proposals. But I think everyone somehow has their eye on it. And I think if someone already looked into the upcoming topics, maybe what I found is that there is a lot of interactions between the different partnerships. And I was wondering, how is that going? Are you meeting with other partnerships like proactively? Is it something the Commission pushes you to do, or how is that working?
I would say, as always, it's a sound mixture of both. So it comes, there's very hands-on angles to that, because a number of the cluster 4 partnerships actually have their offices in the same building even, so that's a very nice thing. But this is something that the European Commission definitely has set as an aspiration for the work program 26-27. Those of you who are a bit more familiar with the policies that are ongoing in the European Union bubble, this is for sure also a reaction to the report by Manuel Heitor on the overall EU funding systems. and what needs to change. I mean, to be very clear with you, this point in time also is a very crucial one, especially also if you're interested in joining, for example, the association, to start working towards whatever then will come after Horizon Europe, right? So this is one of the changes that we already see that has been originally initiated by the Commission, but that of course also is understood by the community as, okay, this is an approach that goes beyond perceived silos, and that is very content driven, where you then can say, okay, in these contexts, for example, it makes sense for us. So we are in discussions with Made in Europe Processes for Planet Clean Steel. We are in discussions also across cluster borders, even if you so wish, and across the borders of the different types of partnerships. Not all of this will come to fruition. This is also absolutely clear. But we are identifying in discussions together with the other partnerships topics that would lend themselves to cooperate or to have cooperative calls on nicely. This can look very different. This can be joint calls. This can also be calls where you would say, okay, these calls complement each other quite nicely. So basically, it's an entire playground and spectrum that has been opening up. But the one thing that is for sure is that nothing is definite yet on the one hand side. On the other hand side, I am pretty sure that we will for sure see some of that in the work program 26-27.
Thank you for that comment. Very interesting to also see the partnership side. Thank you. Then we have in the chat, thank you, Eva, for this presentation. I'm glad to see the health sector considered in the working groups jointly with the initial 4 priorities. It will be interesting. To see if topics in this area come up in 26-27 work program. I fully agree with that comment. Thank you, Sergio. All right, is there something else you always wanted to know about a new partnership? Now we have the chance of asking Eva directly. Seems like you covered all the basics and also all the detail knowledge that could be there. I think if everyone is happy, we could even stop earlier. Don't know. Right, if there's nothing else, I would say thank you once again, Eva. That was a very great presentation. I think I understood way more now than before. Of course, all the documents you presented are also public, but well, it's always way different if the expert from the partnership is introducing such things to you than reading all these documents. And at some point, you're just losing focus, of course. No, it was really great. Thank you again, Eva. Great presentation. Looking forward to see you again. And thank you all to the participants. Thank you for joining today's webinar. Hope to see you soon at another occasion. Unfortunately, I might not come to Krakow, but a lot of colleagues of mine will be there. So get in touch with NCP4Industry, get in touch with IAM I, be it by email, be it on the stand at the booth. And wish you all a great day and take care. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, everybody.